Okay, we continue our discovery of the book 1d6 Move by Move, written by Cyrus Lakdawala, that is a very prolific author. And now we watch a game that was played by Petrosian as black. And you will see how Petrosian surprised the opponent. So the game is Langeweg Petrosian, and this starts with knight f3, right? And black plays d6. So this d6 can be played against everything. Then white plays d4, and can you guess what Petrosian played? Remember the last game, because you need to start to think, not just follow the video. You need just to remember the previous game that I show you, and you already know what is the answer, right? It's bishop g4. So why this move? Because you want to surprise your opponent. Instead, obviously, if he played this and this, this would become obviously the King's Indian, right? So we don't want that, because then you really need to book up on your theoretical part, right? Okay, so it's probably very difficult. So he says, no, he says, we lure our book up opponents out of their theoretical comfort zones while remaining in ours. No? If you play the King's Indian, odds are your opponent hits you with his pet line, which he tested 50 times before in tournament games, and which he understands inside and out. Petrosian move, turning the game into a pre-bill rat, is far sneakier. It's a chameleon-like opening that transforms the game into hybrids of the following openings. 1. Pirk. 2. Modern, King's Indian, Old Indian. 3. Philidor, or Close Ruy Lopez. 4. Alekhines Defense. 5. French. 6. Caro-kann Scandinavian. 7. Classical Dutch. The list actually goes on. Those mentioned are merely the most common. I don't make a false equivalency, claiming that you need to know all this opening just to play the pre-bill rat. What I'm saying is that positions move in and out into positions similar to these openings. And it wouldn't be a bad idea to become somewhat familiar with the main ideas and structures of them. Okay, so as you can see, a system is something that you can use without learning move order or memorizing theory. But at the same time, I tell you, you need to know the pawn structure, because you will enter from one to the other, and when you know the pawn structure, you know what to do. That's the reason, okay? Okay, so here it's a question. It says, how on earth do we get a French or caro structure after we already played 1d6? The French structure is e6 and d5, right? While the caro is c6 and d5. So here black went for the exact mirror image with d6, intending e5. Okay, and the answer is, who said anything about playing e5? True, in some of our lines, like when we transpose to the Philidor, we do indeed play for e5. But in others, like this game, black's idea is very devious. Bishop g4 is followed by the bait and switch of a structure with e6, c6 and d5. So the idea behind this move is that he will play this. He wants to reach this, but with the bishop out. Otherwise, if a bishop was inside, this was the triangle system of the semi-Slav, right? So you know that. You need to think in structures instead of move that you need to memorize, okay? And here you will beat people up because if you know the structure, you know what to play and they don't, okay? In essence, we get a French a tempo down, but with our formerly bad light square bishop on the outside of a pawn chain, or a caro-kann, where white pieces look oddly placed, especially a knight on c3, preventing white from bolstering his pawn center with a pawn push c2 and c3, right? Because if you put it here, you block that. There is a high likelihood that your opponents may firmly believe you just made the moves up, not realizing that they have been lured into actually theory, albeit weird theory. Okay, so what did our friend play after bishop g4? He played e4. Okay, and now what does black play? Knight f6. And here knight c3. Here he gives a line. He says there are 3 lines where white avoids blocking his c-pawn. One starts with h3, bishop h5, bishop d3, e6, and c4. Question: what is this opening? Answer: I don't know what it is. Sometimes in this line both sides end up in strange places. Can you imagine who played this? Now I will show you the line. Okay, bishop e7, knight c3, knight c6, bishop e3, castle, and queen e2. This game was played by Kasparov against Anand in Paris. It was a rapid in 1992. He says black looks alright despite white space if he follows a dark square strategy, fighting for d4, starting with, how do you fight for d4? Obviously you start to remove a defender, right? Boom. Bishop takes f3, queen takes f3, and then there is knight d7, castle, and bishop f6. And then, of course, he could have made a mistake like knight e2. I hope you see what happens if he plays knight e2 and why it's a mistake. If you don't, I advise you to stop the video and think, because if you don't do it, you are not really learning anything. Okay, so knight e2 is a mistake because of this. Okay, tac, tac. And practically black ends up also gaining a pawn. That's the reason. So obviously Kasparov didn't do that. Okay, Kasparov played d5. After d5, Anand continued with knight d4, queen d1, because it was attack, right? And e5. But another possibility could be this, c5, to keep the dark square bishop diagonal open, okay? So there is that possibility. Now, this was one of the possibilities that White had to avoid to block the c pawn, okay? And here I want to return back because again all these lines are great, but are you going really to remember them? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Let's start to try to remember the important stuff, which is the fact that the game started with knight f3. If I remember, it was d6, d4, and boom, bishop g4, right? Did I get it right? Let's see. Because this is the thing you need to actually remember. And white played this, and knight f6. And here there is this move, knight c3. That was played in the game. Lakdawala shows also bishop d3, and what else? Knight bd2 also, and I think those two moves. Okay. In some cases, guys, I think it's convenient to maybe also look online at the games. He mentioned Fonnel versus Lakdawala, a game with knight bd2 e6. So that's a thing, okay? But in this game, he played knight c3. And what do you think Black played at this point? Okay? Because that's what I tell you that you need to remember these ideas, no? That you have brought the thing out, and then you want to enter into a French, for example, or into a caro-kann. Caro-kann would be this. If you enter in a French, e6, right? So bishop e2, bishop e7, and what else? Castle, castle. And now white plays a move, this Langeweg, that was white against Petrosian, played this move. But this move doesn't make much sense, right? Because it's biting granite, like Inzovich would say. So I don't know if that is the right square, right? But at the same time, if he played this, Black would play this, because Black wants to enter into a French structure, right? So that's the reason of this move. So that's why I tell you guys, if you want to use a book like this, before you need to have a clear idea about pawn structures. In my YouTube channel, there are a lot of videos about pawn structures. Try to watch them because they will open your mind. Okay? Okay, so what does Black do now? Black plays c6. As you can see, also for white now it's a little difficult to attack and to actually gain something, right? He plays h3, not understanding that in reality Black is happy to exchange this because this was a bad bishop, but now it's not bad anymore because it's out of that pawn chain, right? And here Lakdawala says, step 1, eliminate the bad bishop and create a knight versus bishop minor piece imbalance. We play for the win. The question is, can Black also preserve his bishop? And the answer is absolutely. He says there is nothing wrong with bishop h5. And he gives an example, okay? So I will give you this example because I'm curious to see what happens here. Sorry, this was an f4, right? Yeah, I don't know why it went back. He went back by himself. I don't know. Okay, so he plays after bishop h5, queen d2, and d5. Now watch how easy it is for white to lose the thread. Rook a d1, which is dubious. Bishop b4 and e5. And after that there is knight e4, rook e1 and c5. And here he says white's pieces look misplaced and he already fights for equality. This was a game between Segurado Garcia and Perez Garcia in Trevias 2000. Okay, so let's go back. Guys, I want to go back by starting again, because if you don't do that, you will not remember the ideas behind the moves. We are not trying to really do the same thing of chessable that make you repeat, but we are trying to see. So it was knight f3, d6, d4, bishop g4, right? And then what did he play? Let's see. He played e4, so gaining space in the center, trying to do a pirk. Knight f6 and knight c3. Okay. And now there is e6, that is very important because you want to develop that. And after e6 there is bishop e2. Okay. And then bishop e7 and castle. And now there is the move that didn't make much sense, bishop f4. Notice, guys, that if you play this, okay, e5, he goes here, and so that's a French. So that's really a French. So, well. Okay, so after bishop f4, he played c6, and then there is h3. And here we said, yes, you can play this, but he prefers to exchange. And after the exchange, what does black do? Now is the moment to exchange the pawn structure in what you want. Do you want a French? Do you want a caro-kann? In this case, he played this. And he says black switches the pawn structure to favor his remaining bishop. So that's why I played this. Okay. So here Lakdawala explains why this move is not great. He says by playing this move, e5, white blocks the position for his rather unimpressive bishop pair. Yeah, it's totally blocked, so it's not a good idea, right? By playing e5, white releases the central tension, and it is black who retains the only strong pawn break in the position, which is c5. What kingside attack? All I see is white pieces in the way, blocking a kingside pawn avalanche plan with f4, g4, g5. So this is the problem, right? Conclusion, an e5 push can be a strategic error for white. And so Langeweg keeps the central tension, and that's the correct thing to do, okay? So what did he instead play after this, since he didn't play this? He played queen d3. And now, generally should be played this, but Petrosian played this. Okay. Here finally white plays e5, and he says he couldn't resist. As pointed out earlier and in the previous game, my feeling is this move may do more harm than good. I do not trust most e5 pushes in such positions. The few positive are outweighed by the many negatives. So now black played this, knight fd7, and white played knight e2, preparing c4 and transferring the knight to assist in his kingside attacking dreams. Okay? But as you can see, Petrosian played this for a reason, because he didn't want this to happen, right? And so guess what? b5. Now we see that the book is old because Cyrus quotes Ribka. I don't know if Ribka still exists. He says, Ribka, a gifted tactician and calculator, at times gets confused in such block games and claims an advantage for white. The truth is, white awkwardly plays pieces are ill-suited for a kingside attack. So he needs to have a better position for attacking. No? White space is meaningless unless he actually gets a kingside attack going, which probably he can't. Black knight over white bishop is a plus in this position. So he says that the knight is better than the bishop because the center is blocked. And he says black is the boss of the queen side, which only he can open. Conclusion, black stand at least equal and more than likely a tad better. Okay, so what did white do? Since Petrosian protected this point, it makes sense that you do what as white? You attack because you try to make it weaker, so you can push, right? But it doesn't work. Knight b6, a takes b5, c takes b5, and then there is rook a2 and rook a7, c3, and again, guys, you see the problem. This side is blocked, nothing is happening. Would black attack on this side? No, because it doesn't even have a majority. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces in this side. It doesn't make sense, right? So obviously you attack where? On the side where you have a majority, no? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this direction. So what do? You need to open the position, however, to have a kind of advantage, right? And so he played b4. Obviously white doesn't want to open the position, because if he opens the position he gets overwhelmed, and so he played b3, and black took b takes c3, and queen takes c3. Queen d7, rook c1, rook c8, fighting for the file. As you can see, these pieces are misplaced, because what are they doing there, right? So you need to ask yourself this often, because it's important. Because in reality, it's like if white is playing without this. Because this is a big advantage generally, but the position needs to be open, and this is not. So as you can see, before moving a pawn, you really need to think, because this move blocked everything. So queen a1, rook a c7, rook takes c7, rook takes c7, right? And now bishop d2. So now white is returning back on the king side to fight for the king side, but maybe it's a little too late. King c8 and g3. Why made g3? Because he played this, and he want to do that, right? But it seems maybe it was better to play right away that. This is the move that he should have played. And of course, now he played rook c2, taking control of the second rank. It takes, and of course, queen c3. Why queen c3? Because obviously he wants to weaken up the attack on that side. But this proves that white has nothing, really nothing. So takes, and knight c6. Again, one more time, black is attacking. He has more pieces on that side. And now is knight c1. And here there is an exercise in planning. He asks you find a maneuver that forces white to part with his good bishop and remain with his bad one. This is a tough one, and you need to think counterintuitively to find the solution. A kumbaya moment. Should the players just give in to the inevitable and agree to a peaceful draw? No. Black has a path which turns the game in his favor. Black slightly advantages in the position are a fixed pawn target on d4. The b3 pawn is shaky as well, and the black knights are at least as good or better than the white bishops. So what is the move? What is the maneuver? Because this will tell you a lot, okay, on how good you are, and it will also tell you how good these grandmasters from the past were, right? Because Petrosian was in Fischer time, and so Spassky, all these grandmasters. The move is a move that you will not find, but you can try. Knight a8. Boom. Petrosian comes up with a strange and yet potent plan of knight c7 and then knight b5, adding a forward hit on d4. Okay. This forces white to part with his good light square bishop. So this maneuver was made to take this out of the equation, right? And so he plays this, black plays this defending it, and king f1. And now this is the reason why, you know, guys, sometimes, yeah, you want to see openings, and the openings are really important, but the problem is that how do you come out with moves like knight a8 or the move that black should play now? Try to think what should play black now. Try to pause the video and think, because the move is f5. And he says Tigran, that is the name of Petrosian, plants more pawns on the opposite color of his remaining bishop. Okay, so he wants this bishop to be good, the pawns must be on white square. And white has a problem because the pawns are on that square, blocking this, right? White played bishop d3, and of course if he would play this, then passant this wall, okay, so that's why he doesn't play it. And now there is this knight b5. This is a problem, right, because he's taking, and this is attack, so you cannot really do everything because you lose it and you lose that. So what does he do? He takes, and now black goes a little back to avoid to be attacked, and black now again put the pawns on light squares. He says yet more pawns on the opposite color of his remaining bishop. f3, allowing black to create a small tier in his position. It was better instead to play this, he says. And let's see if you guys are able to see the next move by black. Again, if you just watch the video without ever pausing, you're wasting your time. You need to, in some critical moment like this, pause the video and guess what Tigran Petrosian played. If you can find it out, it will be better also in your games. The move is h4. And now there is g takes h4. And bishop takes h4. Knight d3. Here Petrosian made a little mistake. What did he play? He played bishop d8. Instead, the right move was this, bishop e7. It seems bishop d8 could have given white the draw. So, but again, it's difficult sometimes, right? You make a lot of moves that are correct, and then you miss it. Why? Because you needed to take the control of c5 and prevent it, right? So that's why. Okay, knight c1. By the way, there are big comments by Lakdawala on what could have happened now, but they are huge. So I don't know. I think you should try to do it by yourself, because it's possible that today maybe the result of this endgame would be different from the year in which this book was written. Because I think this book was written something like, okay, sorry, we were here, he played this instead of this, okay? It's possible that also some endgames have been re-evaluated, okay? So here white played this and black played that. So that's the thing. What does white play? What does black play? Because white at this point play this to protect that, otherwise it was attacked twice. Of course, the move is b4. It says Petrosian builds a fence to corral white's pieces to the queen side. Now b3 turns into a target. Progress comes only with exasperating difficulty. Still the wheel turns, however slowly. Okay, so let's see. White plays king g2. As you can see, guys, these games with this opening are not to win in 20 moves. They are long games, so one needs to be ready to play the endgame. King f7, bishop a1, and knight a5. Obviously he needs to defend it. Knight c1, king g6, bishop b2, king g5, king g3. And what would you play now if you were black? It seems that you need to play this move to allow a possible invasion. No? By what? By the knight. Okay, tack, tack, tack. And this is the problem, I mentioned it in another video, of when you have this isolated pawn, because this becomes a bad weakness, right? And as you can see, now black cannot do much. White cannot do much. And so black moves away, probably, because it's going to break through. Okay, so here we are in Zugzwang. Why? Because now when he plays this, check. And this. So here is interesting because it says the pawn is falling, and so he wins the game. And he says, how does he fall? This is what you need to understand, right? But he says, back in 1973, I played through this game, which was published in Canada's Chess Chat magazine, and I still remember the bewildered feeling all the strange shift in pawn structure left me with. It felt like Petrosian won simply by magic, and through no error on his opponent's part. So how does black win here? After this, there is check, right? And if you do this, whoops. Instead, if you do this, whoop, right? So that's why. Okay, guys, I think I have shown you two games from this book by Lakdawala that was published around 2000 and something. It's probably a little old book, but in my opinion, it's really good because you see, Lakdawala is not teaching you the opening only. is teaching you the end game. That is very important, because if you also gain an advantage from the opening and you don't know how to convert it, how to win it, what is the reason to play it, that opening. So thank you for watching, and I will do more videos on this great book by Cyrus Lakdawala.